welcome to the Mums on Cloud 9 podcast. I'm Heather Black.
I'm Lynn Constantine.
And I'm Kelly Jace Halls.
We are your podcast co-hosts from the Supermums team, and we launched the Mums on Cloud 9 podcast to be your go-to destination for inspiring content to help you carve out a career and life that you love.
Each week, we will share expert advice, personal stories and practical tips across a range of topics from health and mindset to money and career growth.
So make sure you check out our website, www.mumsoncloud9.co.uk, and subscribe for weekly tips to elevate your mindset.
I'm delighted this week to have Elizabeth Willetts join us, who is the founder of Investing in Women and also author of this amazing new book called Flex. We're excited to be doing a deep dive into this book, and Elizabeth is going to be telling us all about it and how it can support you to carve out that career that you love. So Elizabeth, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Do you want to share with everybody your motivation for actually writing this book and what you do at Investing in Women?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Investing Women is a job board and recruitment company that helps people find flexible and part-time and home-based jobs. And the book actually came about in a completely roundabout way. I was working from the car, as you do, as I know a lot of parents do when their children are in clubs. So my daughter used to go to a craft club on a Monday night, and it was in November 2023, and it was really rainy and horrible. I was working in the car, and I saw there was an email from a lady that said she'd heard me on somebody else's podcast and worked for a publishing company called Wiley, and wondered if I would be interested in writing a book. And I first of all thought it was a spam email, so I just ignored it. But you do, she's like, this is a bit of a random email. And then I just sat on it for a few days. I thought, maybe it's right, maybe it's not. So then I messaged, and it was genuine, and they were like, are you interested in writing a book? And I had to put together a book proposal that got approved, and then I got offered a contract. So that's how the book came about. It had to be honest, it wasn't something that was on my bucket list or anything, because I know there were some people that have always say, oh, I'd love to write a book. It's something I really want to do. But for me, I'm really pleased I did it, because it's like literally everything I know about recruitment and how the recruitment industry works, how to make yourself stand out, what job seekers really need to do to navigate quite a complex industry. And I've been in recruitment now since 2007, so it's literally everything I know, all my experiences working in recruitment to help somebody find a job they hopefully love.
Amazing. And you talk about this stuff every day, right, in social media, so it's getting all of your knowledge out there.
Yeah, and all in something that's quite easy to navigate, because obviously like social media, you can just have random thoughts, and like it's not very logical, I guess, to always follow it, whereas this is like in an order. So it starts off with gaining clarity on your career, deciding what you want to do, how you're going to do that, if you want to switch careers, how to do that, if you want to actually progress in your career, how to do that, and then before moving on to chapters around CVs, interviews, job offers. There's even a chapter on managing and launching a business, and then it concludes really with managing the juggle as well. There's also a chapter in there about flexible working and negotiating a flexible working request.
Well, there's lots of great stuff in there, and so what would be great to just kick off, I think, is collectively sharing experiences is one of the things that we'd love to do on the show, and then we'll deep dive into some of those great chapters that you've talked about. Elizabeth, I mean, just tell us a little bit about your career trajectory, really, I suppose, and which chapters stood out to you, and then we'll just share a little bit from our side about which chapters felt really important to us, I suppose, that came across.
Yeah, so my career trajectory, I started working at one of the world's largest recruitment agencies in 2007. So I was an agency recruiter. I recruited qualified accountants into banks before moving into HR recruitment, and then moved in-house to one of the big four when I worked as one of their in-house recruiters. And then, like a lot of people, I was made redundant at the end of my maternity leave, just as I was about to go back to work. I was the only part-time person in my team, made redundant, and then couldn't find another part-time job, which was what I wanted. My children were 1 and 3 at the time, and every time a recruiter approached me and I asked will they consider part-time, was told no straight away or ghosted. And I just got really frustrated. Could see what had happened to so many of my friends, where they'd had to take something lower paid, lower skilled in exchange for that flex, and I just could see it could happen to me as well. And I look back on my own recruitment career. At that point, I'd never recruited anybody on a part-time basis. When I worked in an agency, we didn't even register candidates that wanted to work part-time, let alone try and help them at all. So I thought it then, I still think it now, that one of the main drivers of the gender pay gap is because of the lack of flexible work that's available. We all know it still happens that in 2025 women still do the bulk of childcare, domestic, and take on more domestic duties, etc. So they are much more statistically much more likely to want and need flexible work. So that's why I set up Investing in Women. And a chapter that stood out to me was something about basically if you think you've been discriminated against at work and what to do, and there's something that you can get and that's really helpful, which is a subject access request. So a lot of people, if they think they've been discriminated against at work, they might not do anything about it, but actually you can. So you can basically, if you do it within a certain time frame, I think they've extended it now, but you can basically ask for all your data to be released to you, including emails that have maybe been sent about you, texts, anything, and that will really help you determine if you do have a case. And if you do have a case, you've got some leverage then. So it's called a subject access request, and organizations are legally obliged to release that data to you because it's your data, and it's basically anything where you may have been mentioned.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. I think it's really interesting to see, obviously, the pain points you've experienced and the reality is that you can't imagine these things happen sometimes. It's like, why can't people register for job opportunities if they want flexibility, right? It's crazy, doesn't it? It's kind of, you feel like naive to the world sometimes, but when you've been there and you've lived it and you've seen it from the other side, you can see where all these equalities lie and why we kind of want to bang the drum for challenge.
I mean, it makes no commercial sense for a traditional recruitment agency to work with a part-time candidate because
They don't earn enough money.
They don't earn enough money, basically, because you are paid as a recruitment agency on these person's starting salary. So if you're placing somebody on half the salary, then it can open up tricky conversations. Are you charging half a fee? You're going to charge the full fee, even though it's the same amount of work. It's basically there's no commercial incentive. So I can't see how that actually is going to fundamentally change with a lot of the big recruitment agencies.
Well, it's every opportunity though. It's a missed opportunity. It's still a person. It's still a job, and some companies want part-time people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So at Supermums, we have our recruitment team that place Salesforce individuals, and we absolutely will work on part-time jobs because why would we not? It's still a commercial opportunity, whether it's full-time or part-time from a company or candidate point of view. So it's interesting, isn't it? And different dynamics and how things work. But we're here to change things, right?
We are here to change. So it'd be interesting to hear your experiences. What was your experience like then when you became a mum and work?
Well, I think Kelly, over to you first, because you've obviously went through this looking for part-time work, didn't you?
Well, not part-time per se, but more flexible. Yeah, flexible. I mean, I've always worked in the prison industry and probation industry, so I never really had. I was never at a point where I was out of work. So, for example, there's 20 companies in the probation prison world that do government administration. So when your contract comes to an end, 6 months beforehand, you'll just apply to all the other companies, and you just kind of go round in a circle doing the same job and just whoever has the contract. So I had IVF in Turkey at 38 years old. I've got a 2-year-old now. So when I came back, I mean, I never wanted to be a parent until I met my current husband, and then I thought, this is the guy I want to raise a child with. I didn't realize I wanted to be a parent till I was 37 years old. So I've always done like male jobs and male environments, working full time. We come home, I have like Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays cooking dinner. My husband does Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays, and then we take out on Sunday. So I've got a very equal kind of household, but I didn't know what to do. I'm like, well, I've got a baby. I've got all these issues because of working in prisons with childcare. I don't know what to do. So I somehow stumbled across your website, and it's the first time I'd ever seen it, just because I was looking for something that was going to allow me to work from home and use my skills. And I was like, oh my God, what's this investing in women thing? So I found this job that I'm working in with Supermums from there, and I had a couple of job offers. That this job felt just right for my situation. I was so like impressed with myself that I found it and even got through the interview. I think I was being weighed up between myself and somebody else, so I think I just marginally hit somebody else. But
Supermums roles are always really popular though, aren't they? Heather, you'll know this.
But yeah, it was very interesting how I had to change from that masculine environment to finding a very flexible and female orientated kind of environment. It was a big change for me.
How have you found it? The culture, does it feel a very different culture?
Very different. My language has died down a lot, so I'm very ladylike. I'm used to being around like 6'5" geezers and from the East End of London, Pentonville, and I've just become more ladylike. But I mean, again, I've still got a male in my team, so I can still have that male banter. But again, it's nice to be around females because I've always been. I've had mostly male stepchildren. My son's male, my husband's male. I've got no one to do makeup with or Barbie dolls with. So yeah, it was different, and it's nice. It's nice to have that female connection, talk about more feminine issues, because I've had no one to talk to about those things. I didn't realize how burnt out I actually was.
Now you've got hundreds of women.
Now I've got women everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. Yeah.
And it's an interesting point, Kelly, like you talk about flexibility, and I said part-time off the top of my head, but actually flexibility means lots of different things to different people.
Yeah.
And quite often one of the when we work with employees at Supermum, they're like, well, we can't work with part-time. And I'm like, well, actually, we do have women that want full-time, but they want
Yeah.
flexible hours.
Flexible hours.
They
Yeah.
work from home,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
so actually it's an assumption that we shouldn't all make. And absolutely, some people want part-time. It's not sort of dismissing that, but flexibility means different things. And I think it's a great time to jump to you then, because obviously you wanted flexibility in a different way as well, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish I'd come across all of this when my children were small. Mine are grown up, so I'm the other end.
Yeah.
I've got 3 adorable granddaughters, so I get all the fluffy sparkle and makeup tips that I need from 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. So, but it's such a different world now from when my children were growing up. I've always worked very long hours, weekends, evenings, all of that. So I think for me, I worked previously selling new build. So a bit like Kelly, I was going on to sites and swilling out their cups to have builder's tea and all of that stuff. So it was quite nice for me to all of a sudden go have a wake up call and say, actually, I don't want to drive hundreds of miles every day. I want to have a different life. So I knew I loved the functionality of Salesforce. So that was always going to be my route. And of course, I came across Supermums. I did the course with them, and that's what led me here. So for me, I think having that flexible work-life balance that I have now, I talk to people all day, every day while looking out the window at my garden, and it's absolutely changed my world. So I think flexibility, as Heather said, is different for every person. For me, it just gives me the opportunity to go for a walk in the afternoon or to sit on my decking and have my lunch. So it's not quite the same for me. I don't have the children to bring up, but it's nice to be around for them when they do need me. So.
And nice to work from home, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, I
sort of
love
look
that.
out on your garden, especially
Yeah.
if it's a nice day. It's not so nice today, but yeah.
It's nice here. I'm down in North Devon and it's sunny.
Oh, lovely. Very nice.
Lovely, isn't it? I mean, I miss being in London like some days a week. So I've always, well, before COVID, had a hybrid where we had an office in London, and I'd be going up sort of a couple of days a week. And I do love meeting people. Like, it does give me my
Yeah, I do
mojo. And I think there's a thing about personal relationships. So getting out of the house is really important for my mental health, I think. And as I say, meeting people, having conversations. Every conversation I have sparks an idea. And I don't feel like I always get those same level of conversations if I talk on Zoom, to be fair, or you build up the same level of rapport.
Totally
So
agree.
not dismissing work from home, because I know we do a lot of that, but for me it's important. And I think it's about knowing what that flexibility is that you want. And the thing that I wanted to, I suppose, pull out in the chapter for me, Elizabeth, was around how to find job opportunities, because I've always done this myself. I started out basically approaching it in my 20s from university, going out and approaching companies that I wanted to work for and sending a personalized covering letter and CV. Didn't used to apply for jobs that existed and were on a mass website, but I'd apply for companies directly and make sure that, to sit there. And I didn't always get something, but actually I got my first job that way. And I ended up from university going to St Albans, having written to this company speculatively and getting this great work experience to do alongside my master's, which was great. And then got my second job after that in the same way, working for this consultancy. So I've always been a big champion of, absolutely, you do go via recruiters and job boards. It's not about not doing that, but equally go out and reach out to companies, that you can connect with, talk to them personally, approach them. And having run my own business since the age of 26, I've had to be very bold and go out and just meet as many people as possible and network and present myself and put myself out there. And I've built a massive LinkedIn profile as a result of that, because I've always had to go out and find work and network and generate that income. So I now support a lot of our women through Supermums to access what we call the hidden job market, if you like. You find out which companies to approach, to research, and to if you are applying via a job site, what else do you do to make sure that you get noticed amongst the pile? As Elizabeth said, when we advertised for a marketing role, we had 70 odd CVs. So how do you get noticed in that pile? How do you stand out? I think is really important. And so I think your book covers so many valuable things. And you've talked about the different chapters obviously a part of it, but I think we've all got something to resonate with all of those almost.
And I think the good thing about an easy way to stand out, and not everybody does this, is a cover letter.
Yeah.
And I don't know why people don't write cover letters. I think if there's a space for a cover letter, include a cover letter, not some generic AI one, something like more personal. I hired a marketing manager to work for me, and I'll be honest, I hired her, obviously not just on the cover letter because I met her, but her cover letter, I'll never forget it. I received it on a Saturday night, and it was so personal. And she'd obviously really done her research on me and our organisation, and I felt like I knew her straight away. And she really sold herself through her cover letter. I didn't really even look at her CV.
It's good.
So yeah, top tip, not everybody includes a cover letter. So if you can, include a cover letter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, do you know what? It's funny you say that, because in terms of me getting this job role, and I think throughout my career, I've quite often been approached by people because it's all about that personal touch. I know that when Heather offered me this job, she said she already knew me because I'd reached out to her on LinkedIn and sent her a personal message. So I think it's always so important.
Yeah.
That personal touch is always the way you're going to get your foot in the door for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it is definitely as well, like you said, Heather, about building this network and building them before you need it. Building a network, I think, before you need it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just from my side then, you've got 20 great chapters in this book. So what would you say personally that it covers for women? What's the good nuggets to get out of that?
I think it starts off with define what you actually want and who you actually are. I think so many people are pushed, because I do career coaching on the side. I've done it with so many people, and they just like look at me like because they hate their job. And I think that's such a shame because we spend such a long time at work, such a long time at work. So I think if you've got kids or anything like that are picking their GCSEs or A levels or whatever, really think about what they're good at. I advise everybody to do like a strengths-based assessment. So I did one through Gallup, and it really helps from a business owner's perspective, because then you think, right, I'm going to lean into my strengths and outsource my stuff that I'm not so good at. But also if you're like that in your career and maybe wondering what to do, it helps you then pinpoint what roles are going to suit you based upon your strengths. Get really clear on your values, what your definition of success is, because your definition of success is probably going to be different to your neighbours. So therefore, if you get really clear and comfortable with that, you're hopefully not going to be jealous if you see them driving a brand new car, because that might not be your definition of success. Maybe it is, and then what sort of roles that you want to go for. But I think if you've got quite clear on your success, definitions of success, values and strengths, you'll be much more likely to get a job and a career that you're going to enjoy, that you're going to thrive in. And then it's so much easier then to like move within that career and move up that ladder. So I think that is where so many people don't take that time investment to get to know them.
Yeah, I think we talk a lot about having goals and finding your industry knowledge and finding a company that you want to work for. So I think that's, like you say, that's so important to have a goal and an outcome that you want, and then try and aim towards that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, Elizabeth, I have a question for you, but I want to make it a little bit more specific, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, if you think about people looking for work and people with a background of being in full-time employment, they've got experience of how to job search and how to look for jobs. I really want to find out what your views are on people seeking flexible employment, that they've been out of the workplace for a long time and they haven't got that kind of like fundamental experience of actually job seeking and looking for jobs. How would they go about finding flexible jobs, which is even more specific than just finding a regular job?
I know, because I think there was like some crazy stat that only 3% of jobs advertised mention part-time. I think a lot of jobs will not mention part-time, actually may be able to offer it as well. So I think if you see your dream job and it doesn't mention flexibility, I would still say apply for that role. Definitely still apply. Also, like Heather said, I think a lot of it as well is trying to build a network as well. So spending time creating a LinkedIn profile that says what you want it to say about you, starting to connect with people in industries you want to work in companies you want to work in, sending them a connection request, commenting on their posts, starting to become a little bit more visible on places like LinkedIn. You can obviously go offline networking as well. If you're a professional, for example, if you're an accountant or have been an accountant, you can, ACA, for example, are a membership organization. They will run regular events, but there's for every single profession. Most professions you'll be able to get in touch with like an industry body, and that will help build your confidence, get you back out there. Obviously, I mean, this is not just flexible work, but generally if you feel there's some skills gaps you're missing, take time to upskill yourself on those, even if it is just a YouTube video. I always think, or if it's a particular system, then a lot of them will have like training videos on their website as well, so you can just build your confidence like that. Obviously there's my website, Investing Women. We've got loads of flexible part-time roles in local Facebook groups. It's definitely worth going on there and just telling people. I think people don't feel a bit embarrassed to say if they're looking for something, but if you're at the school gate, if you're a member of a running club, if you're out at the pub, just tell people what you're looking for, what skills and experience you have, and chances are they might not be able to directly help you, but they might know somebody that can. So always be open to hearing about other opportunities as well. And if you do get an interview for a role that's maybe not and advertised as part-time, then just have a little think before, when you get to that point where you're negotiating about hours, what are going to be the benefits to the organization? You might not have to go down this route. They may be more flexible and open than you think, but if they're not, what are going to be the benefits to that, the organization, to the employer, of you working flexibly? And there are loads. So you just have a little think about what those benefits are, and then you can sort of sell them as well, you working flexibly. I know, Heather, because you employ people flexibly, what do you think from like an employer's perspective are the benefits?
I think there's different perspectives, isn't there, really? So I think one is that from a budget point of view, actually the role and the budget we have for that role is part-time, and we don't need somebody full-time from what we understand. So actually, I think it's about, as a company, going, what do we really need here from a business point of view and delivery point of view? I think it's hard, and with certain companies and certain industries, you might need somebody there full-time, and obviously it's not going to suit every single job. So I think there has to be that reality of the job role and what it is. But I think the other benefit is you bring other skills, right? So if you've got one job role that actually needs a blend of skills, and you don't have somebody that's got all of those skill sets, because take marketing, for example, right? Marketing is really a raft of skill sets you need out.
Really.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there's so many things you need to know. So actually, and they have to train up on, right, as well, because all the algorithms are changing in different platforms and all the techniques that you use. The reality is somebody who's full-time may not have all those range of skills, and actually you might be better having two part-time people who have the blend of those skill sets. And so I think you can go back to I think it's really important to know your strengths and your zone of genius. And that was a big sort of light bulb moment for me when I did a personality profiling tool, and I was 28 at the time. It made me just feel so much calmer, like, oh, I can be good at this, but actually I'm not good at that stuff.
Yeah, I'm not going to worry about it.
I'm not going to worry. It's like, but I need people around me that fill those gaps. Hence why I've got Lynn and Kelly and the rest of the team. It's like you complement each other, and it's really important that we understand each other's strengths and weaknesses and where we come together as a team. So don't beat yourself up if you're not great at everything. But that can be where you can explain to the employer to say, look, I'm shit hot at these things, right? But you could find somebody who's great at those things, because finding somebody that's going to be all of those things might be quite hard for you. If it's each for opportunities. But again, I'll sort of bounce back the question to you really in this file, because the thing is, we see this all the time with our supermums applying for jobs, as you do. A job says full-time and maybe 2 years experience. Now I'll be like, apply for it anyway. Sell yourself. Get in there, because absolutely, they might absolutely love you. And we've seen this time and time again where this has been true. It's successfully resulted in a job opportunity for that person. The question is, and we've all got probably our views on this, is when do you ask for that flexibility? Do you put it in your covering letter up front and make people aware of it? Do you go to the interview and say, actually applied for this, and say it to interview, or do you do it after an offer? Like, what's your view on it?
My view, and it's changed. My view is to do it around the interview stage, because I think you don't know who the cover letter is going to. And in big companies, they're not even going to the hiring managers. They're just going to somebody that it's probably been outsourced to. So when we were in Big Four, it was like a recruitment team in Poland that did the SIFs. So if they've been not even briefed about this flexibility, and they see this straight away, like blaringly on the cover letter, you may get rejected, which is obviously not fair to you, but that is the reality. You don't know who is doing that first sift, and it might not be the hiring manager, who may be very open to part-time. So I would probably mention it at the interview when you've had a chance to sell yourself a bit, because if you are the right candidate for that job, they are going to like be flexible for you. So for example, when I recruited my marketing role, I thought I only needed someone 15 hours a week. So I advertised it as 15 hours a week, and then I met Claire, who like blew me away, and then she said, actually I really want 25 hours a week. So I went back to the budget and I thought, can I? And I thought, yeah, I'm going to stretch. So it can go both ways, but it can go both ways. But I think if you have an opportunity to sort of sell yourself at an interview, then they're going to be much more receptive to offering you what you want if they are impressed with you. I think off the stage it always feels a little bit disingenuous if you wait until then.
Yeah.
Because you've had a chance to impress them at interview.
Yeah, impress them and then ask at the end.
I think impress and ask at the end of an interview. Yeah.
Something that I'd like to see more, that I have tried to encourage within our community, and I don't, it's sort of be interesting to do more of this, but try and find somebody who can be your job share. So two of you go in, you find role, right? Because if you can find that, that partner in crime, whether it's your partner in home or whether it's something else, there's two of you that can go in and say together we're a collective, right? And I've been interested in the CEO role. I've been really interested to see actually this operating at a CEO level, COO level, as well as sort of lower down the chain. And it goes back to those complementary skills, sharing responsibilities. It's interesting, isn't it? So
it is interesting. I've worked with job shares in the past, and they said they had like a joint CV and stuff, but I've never seen a joint CV, so I don't know how it works.
Never heard of that before.
No, so they always applied for roles together, had a joint CV.
Friends or sisters or?
They were friends.
Oh my gosh.
And they worked in a job share for like 7 years when I knew them.
So strange. I've never heard of that.
right.
Yeah.
They're twins.
They are twins, and I think they split the role. You can obviously do a job share on time, or they just split it by duties. Like
My daughter, she's trained up as a teacher, and she's been thinking about, her and her friend are both teachers, and they both like a bit more work-life balance. And of course, we all know that as great as it is in teaching to have all these holidays, you can't have the time that you do want, the flexibility. You have to be there from then until then. And she's been talking about going in with her friend and applying for one role for both of them. So
yeah,
it does.
my
happen.
daughter's teachers are in a job share.
Oh, there you go then. Okay, I'll have
and they
to tell her.
swap over Wednesday lunchtime. So one does the beginning of the week and one does the end. But I think I was chatting to one of them because I was helping on the school trip, and she said it really helps her because, I mean, as we all know, it's not a 5-day week job, is it? If you're full time as a teacher. So she says she does her marking at the end of the week, so then her weekends are for her as well.
That's nice. It's nice. And for me, saying about weekends, changing from working every weekend when I had my own businesses, I had pubs and nightclubs back in the day. And then when I was doing estate agency, of course, it's weekends.
Yeah.
I love my weekends now. And I think it's because I never had them before.
Yeah. You make the most of them.
Yeah. But another question, I suppose, from my side would be, something that we've talked about quite a bit already is LinkedIn. From my side, obviously, it made a big difference to me. And you've mentioned LinkedIn a few times as well. How would you encourage women to be making sure that they optimize their LinkedIn profiles? Because that is so important, isn't it?
Because basically LinkedIn is like a giant job board / social media platform. So you want to be on LinkedIn. I think even if you're actively job searching or not, because if you have a well-optimized profile, you are going to be found by recruiters who spend all day, every day on LinkedIn trying to find candidates for their jobs. So if you are basically plugging it in with the relevant keywords, like you would do if you were optimizing a web page for SEO, then the chances are you're going to be coming up on these recruiter searches. Make sure you've got all your settings open. See somebody that's maybe not connected with you can still see your photo. I think that's really important, and people can message you as well. But yeah, be quite, obviously I know some people are in work, so they don't want to have the green open to work banner on there, but there is the green open to work banner if you are actively looking. But you could basically, if you think I want to be a HR manager, make sure your profile is optimized for that. You'd be putting that in your headline, you'd be putting that in your about, you'd be making sure you're filling in all your roles that you've had, the descriptions, trying to plug in as many keywords as you can. And then your posts would, if you started to feel more comfortable and confident, creating posts would be reflecting what you want to be known for and what you really want to get out of LinkedIn, trying to make them relevant to what your goal is and who you want to appeal to. But yeah, I think LinkedIn, if you're not on LinkedIn, you should be. 1 billion people are on there across the world, and it is like a recruiter's social media platform of choice. And ways to get started would be just comment on other people's posts if you're not comfortable doing your own posts. You could also share news reports. It doesn't always have to be about you, what you post as well.
I think it's a big thing for our super mums, isn't it? Because they get
Yeah.
headhunted that way.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
start to build all their connections, because we've got a big alumni community with super mums that we've built over 6 years. So we're like, go and connect with all of them on LinkedIn, and then they celebrate their career progress and what they've been doing, and then people get wind of that, and then the recruiters start headhunting them, and then they get their jobs. Like one lady got 6 interviews and 3 job offers off the back of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So
Well, I did.
definitely do a deep dive. Definitely do a deep dive into Elizabeth's chapter around LinkedIn, because
Yes.
focus your time and energy on.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Very important.
So I think there's a thing with flexibility where I think we've mentioned it a lot as part-time, but I really wanted to open it out to be, I think for me, flexibility is I do a full-time job, but I can work later on a Monday and Tuesday and have like Thursday and Friday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday with shorter hours. So I'm balancing it out to be able to take my baby to childcare or his appointments. So with these different kind of ranges of flexibility, how do you kind of encourage companies to have a more flexible kind of approach to their resourcing?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many benefits to businesses that employ people flexibly. I know Heather spoke about financial. I mean, this is obviously part-time, but if you're employing somebody part-time, you're paying a part-time salary. So you don't have to pay as much outlay on salaries. You're paying less than on national insurance, potentially paying less into pensions. So actually there's a financial benefit to your business as well. But generally, those businesses that employ staff on a flexible work basis experience less staff turnover, and it's very, very costly to replace somebody. You know, not just the recruitment fees, which for executive hires can be around £30,000,
Yeah.
but also time spent while you lose some skills, where you're trying to find somebody else, then you're trying to upskill a new person, can take up to 6 months, where that's a lost productivity time. So if you can reduce your staff turnover, you reduce your costs and are much more likely to increase your profit. Also less staff absence with those businesses that employ people on a flexible basis. Productivity is often higher. There's a thing called Parkinson's law, which if you think about it, on the last day of holiday before you go away, you are like the most productive you're probably all year, because you've got a deadline. It's a little bit like that for somebody that, you know, potentially is working flexibly, has a kid to pick up or whatever. So they are much more productive. And the Parkinson's law thing is, if you give somebody a time frame to complete a task, they're going to complete it in that time frame. So if I said to you, I need this presentation done in 4 hours, you're probably going to take 4 hours to do it. Whereas if I said to you, I need this presentation done in an hour, you're going to do it in an hour. So you're just naturally more productive, actually, the less time you have and the more focused time you have. And also, I think employing somebody flexibly on time in a way that works best for them, you're just going to get the best out of that person and the best out of that position as well. There's been so many studies as well that show that flexibility is the #1 way to increase gender diversity within a business. And once you have gender diversity cracked within a business, there are studies that show then business as a whole becomes much more diverse in terms of other groups as well. So if you lead with gender diversity, you're much more likely to get increased representation across other minorities and other groups within your business. And diverse thought, it's going to obviously increase innovation. You're going to be able to serve your customers, and therefore you're going to have much more revenue and profit.
Yeah, okay. And then, sorry, just one last thing on that. What do you think is the correlation between kind of, as a remote and flexible worker, between trust between the employee and the employer? Do you think there's any sort of tips or tricks for maybe a new employee to kind of build trust in a role that's maybe they're not face to face with their boss or their colleagues?
Good question.
I think there is. I think that is the trickiest thing about remote, I'll be honest, is that, yeah, it's like that trust element.
'Cause you could be sitting there drinking lattes.
Yeah,
Like,
you could, but you could be doing that in the office as well.
Yeah.
Nobody's
could
even
be
down
doing that.
net monitoring. It's about output, isn't it, at the end of the day, you know? But I think, go back to your point, Elizabeth, giving people deadlines and targets. I've always been aware that I'm more productive if I've got more stuff to do and deadlines than
I am, yeah. And they do
Okay.
say you want something
Yeah,
done, give it to a
true.
busy person. Like, no, there's that saying.
So,
But yeah, I think if you
just
work
tools.
work remotely, and you probably shouldn't have to do this, but I think it's helpful to you, is to be quite vocal about what you've done to your boss, and like, I've just done this, I've just done that, so they can see that as well. And I think that would, especially when you first start, that really helps build that trust.
Interesting. It is about deliverables, isn't it? If you do a great job, nobody's going to question it. It's like when Branson introduced, the have as many holidays as you want, as long as you get your job done and you're performing.
Oh, I love that
Happy
idea.
days.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous idea. I'm leaving tomorrow.
I trust you implicitly. We get shit done. Like yesterday, Kelly's like, we're having a working party. We all just get stuff done. And actually, we were low productive because we're all in the room. We had all the questions. And I think that's one of the things about working remotely is people don't pick up the phone and talk to each other enough. And there's sometimes when you've got to get stuff done, you work as a team. And it was interesting because Kelly's like, right, let's just all get together at 10. Let's just all do it. And she brought half of them in team on.
Nice.
I like everybody was doing
Yeah.
team. I was
I
like,
need support. I need help.
really working
Yeah.
at home. And like you don't getting stuff done, you can be stalled because you kind of, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then you message somebody, an email,
Yeah.
get the answer back. And so I think teamwork is really important for remote working. If you feel like you're not getting stuff done, working as a team collectively. This morning we're having conversations around making sure we're all on Slack first, getting Slack up every day, getting communication as a team. I think there's so many great tips there around remote working, isn't there, and how employers can support it and mobilize it, because it's not, we as an employer, and I say this as an employer, we've got to mobilize that so we can get stuff done in the time we've got. Particularly if you're part-time, you've got to get stuff done in the hours that you're working. And I think what I'd like to finalize and say is that sometimes part-time employees can say, oh, I work over the hours but I don't get paid for them. I think it's really important we manage our boundaries, and boundaries is one of the things that we talk about in the ambitious women mindset at Supermums. We talk about making sure that we've got boundaries in place and actually managing your workload so you do it in the hours that you've got, that you're meant to be working. Don't overwork those hours. If you honestly think you've got more work than you should have and you're not managing it in a robust way, obviously communicate to your manager that actually you've got more than you can do. And I think it's just figuring all of that out with a part-time role. So
Yeah.
Communication's key, isn't it?
Communication
For
as a, definitely.
And managing maybe your manager's expectations as well. Like if they message you and you're not working, don't get in the habit of emailing back, and then they'll soon learn.
I haven't learned that one yet.
Yeah.
but going back to comms though, I mean the thing is we'll all be working different hours of the night. So, and I think Kelly, you brought this the other day when somebody flagged it in the team, we might send an email when we're working, but
Answer it when you're ready.
Yeah. We don't expect
It's my brain has something in there and I need to get it out. I'll send it there and then, but you don't have to respond to it. You can wait till it's your time.
Yeah.
Because I always felt like some of our team worked flexible hours, right? So they would work in the evening. And I'd be thinking as the employer, like, I don't want people thinking that I've got my staff working at 10 at night, working silly hours. No, I'm not saying it's silly hours, but that's the time that they chose to work, right? And so we put on the bottom of our email signatures, please know I work flexible hours, please respond back when appropriate, because we don't want people thinking, oh my God, they're really working hard. They're working all these hours. The reality is that actually that works for the people that we've got around the table. And I think it's really important that communication and how we communicate, and with us communicating what's right and what's normal and okay, and that we don't expect a response back straight away, and that we're working flexible hours, I think has been really important to us at Supermums.
Yeah, but I think also the problem is when people do work for you on the time and then complain about it. The thing is, you're a grown up. You have the choice to say no. If you ask me to do something, it's not within my hours, I will say yes because I want to. But I can always say, sorry, Heather, can you come back to me in the morning? But I can say no if I want to. So it's about setting those boundaries. If you go beyond that, that's a choice you've made.
Yeah.
So you can't complain about choices you make.
Got to be comfortable to say no, and that's boundaries again. It's all about boundaries.
Yeah,
It is all about boundaries.
Oh.
I suppose just last from me, I've always got lots of questions. Just from my side, because I talk to people that are looking for flexibility every single day in my role. Is part of what I do. Do you see certain industries that are, certain sectors that are more flexible than others?
I don't know if I see. I think obviously there's certain employers that are more flexible than others within sectors.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it's the employers, and if you can get an ally, and obviously the more senior the ally rises within that business, the better it is for everybody. I mean, often there's small organizations, I really like working with them because they tend to be fully remote, they tend to be flexible anyway, so they're always really, really nice to work with. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's some jobs that don't lend themselves as well to flexibility, so for example retail and hospitality. But I think generally everything else, there will be, I think a lot of it's dependent upon the company, and if you've got a champion of flexible work within that organization, that's hopefully as well, the more senior they've risen, the easier it is for them to buy into it.
Yeah, I suppose, like you say, I mean, there's certain jobs you just couldn't do remotely. So
Like a
it's just good
chef.
to hear that.
Yeah.
That's my first job choice at 16, and I swiftly moved on.
it?
I do.
That was mine. That was mine too. I wanted to be a chef as well.
Oh no,
Not for
that's
me.
never been in my
No,
vocabulary.
never.
You ran a bar, Lynn. That's
That's close enough, yeah.
Yeah,
But-
never worked in the kitchen though.
No, my makeup melted off. It was a disaster. I had to leave. Lasted
was
one
the end
day.
of it.
That's the end of it.
No, long hours, bless them. Great. Well, lovely. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining us today. I think we've covered so many great topics, and we really resonate on the mission of this and what we're doing to shift the needle for women and support them to get those flexible careers. So hopefully all the listeners today have got some really great tips from the session. Obviously, do check out Elizabeth's website, Investing in Women, and definitely buy the book, because it's going to be your resource tool for all of the tips and tricks that you need to find that flexible job. Proof is in the pudding. Kelly did it through Investing in Women.
I did.
I found book Investing in Women. It was a great place to start your job search if you're looking for jobs from that point of view. And of course, you've got Supermums as well. If you're wanting a flexible, well-paid career in the Salesforce sector, check out Supermums too. But thank you, Elizabeth, for joining us today.
Thank
It's
you
been
so
great
much for
having you.
having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn and Kelly as well. For being my
Thank
guests.
Thank you, Heather.
Speak to you soon. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.